Welcome to Ponchatoula Live. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a fantastic guest. Today you're going to see a lady who is one of the top leaders in all the land. She's one of my favorite people because I've known her virtually my whole life. She comes from one of the biggest and best families here in Ponchatoula, and she volunteers her own time serving our community in a myriad of ways, whether it's working on the parish council to fight to protect Ponchatoula, or picking up litter in her free time on Saturday mornings. You name it, you see Kim Landry Coates out and about town, and she has earned our respect and admiration. And Councilwoman Landry, welcome to, Coates, my apologies. Kim, it's old habits are hard. You know, growing up with you at St. Joseph, you're always Kim Landry to me. But Councilwoman Coates, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And why don't we begin with you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me. So, grew up here in Ponchatoula. Like Parker said, my family, the Landrys, have been here since the early 1900s. And Steve's family, the Coates, is one of the original families that settled Pumpkin Center. So,
wow, so that's several hundred years of local lore. That's exciting. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, very neat. You know, my family's been around about as long as yours, and I always get a kick at how some of these families stick around for generation and generation, and then some marry together or others are buddies. But, you know, I think of a few classes behind us at St. Joe, Wesley Daniels and my brother Bree, been close friends their whole life. Their families came down together from Michigan, like 100 and something years ago. So to hear you and Steve have this kind of 100+ year old power couple, that's kind of neat. The Landry family is always one that makes me smile, not just because I grew up going, in class with your sister Kelly and your cousin Charlie and all these guys that were great friends. But I was blessed to be coached by your Uncle Ralph and cousin Hot Dog and just all these great Landrys that knew much more about sports than I did. They were all great players and just great guys in addition to that. And of course, your mom was kind of a St. Joseph school legend. When you got there, you were welcomed into St. Joseph at the kindergarten level, which I think started my year. So maybe you were in kindergarten a year or two ahead of me, so you can maybe remember better. But it started around the time you and I were in school there. And your mom and her sister kind of welcomed us, little chickens into the fold. So the Landrys have always had a big impact around here. And your family is one of my favorite. What was it like growing up in that big, popular, active, rambunctious family of yours?
Oh, yeah. So, actually, the kindergarten class was the first class was the year before me.
Oh, so, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I think 1979.
Okay.
78, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Was
yeah.
The first kindergarten class at St. Joseph. But yeah, my mom was there over, I think, 13 years.
Yeah. Well, I just remember, as you know, I never grew tall, right? So I'm still short. But when I was a short kindergartner, I was really short. And you're a very tall woman. Your family has a lot of height across the board, but your mom and her sister, Miss Reagan, they were like two giants to us, but they were friendly giants. They welcomed us in with open arms and big smiles. And, your mother's just such a graceful lady. She was great with the kids. And, I'll admit to walking into that St. Joseph kindergarten class, very scared, very timid, nervous as a wreck. And she kind of put us all at ease right away. So that's really cool. What about like in the household as a mother, away from the professional, what was it like in your house growing up?
So, my dad worked offshore
right.
for, 20 something years. So, it was interesting. They always said they were married 30 years, but only for 15 because he was gone half the time, but
that reminds me, on this show a few months ago, Kevin Rafer was on here and he talked about how he and Karen, they call it sports divorced, with 5 boys. They love each other as much as they ever did, but they don't see each other much. So that's a funny concept your parents had.
Yeah, but trying to go to school and having a mom at the school and finding out everything that's going on in the classroom and stuff before you even get home from school. Yeah, that was quite interesting.
Yeah, you really didn't have time to work up what your story was going to be,
No,
and I mean,
no.
she knew the truth, the whole truth before you ever got home. That, yeah, I bet that was a challenge. And yeah, as I recall, y'all grew up out on the east side of town, right? Like by
No,
was it
West.
west side? I'm sorry, I'm pointing west, but saying east. My bad directions. But you know, because I was growing up playing out that way, say at Chad Richard's house on Wadesboro, and y'all were
Yeah.
right there. So it had to be fun. I mean, that area is still kind of country, but it's growing up a lot. I mean, you know, you represent it as our councilwoman, and there are tons of subdivisions in every direction and new homes. But back then, as I recall, there were cows and hay, and I mean, country was real country out there, right? What'd y'all do to get into some fun, you know, living out there?
Well, so my mom still has the big field
Oh,
around her
cool.
house
Yeah.
where the cows used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Where we built our house was the pine thicket for the strawberries.
Okay. Okay.
So my grandpa raised strawberries, so he had a couple acres of pine trees where he gathered the straw for the strawberries in his garden and everything. Well, now it's kind of reversed where the cows are. I guess about 15 years ago, Steve planted about 300 pine trees over in the where the cow pasture used to be.
Oh,
So,
very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
so so my mom cuts her grass like, every couple days and stuff. So the
Right.
back would kind of stay wet.
Uh-huh.
And so Steve's like, well, let's plant trees.
Well, I'm so glad to hear he's doing that, because with all this development, trees are coming down left and right, you know, east and west here in Ponchatoula, and not enough people are, you know, planting them back up. So I know that you care a ton about our environment, about litter control, keeping this place beautiful. But, you know, it's important to note that planting trees is a big part of that. For one reason you just mentioned, soaking up the water, right? I mean,
Yes.
I know later in the interview, we'll get to your career as a parish councilwoman and as a drainage board commissioner. But that agriculture, those trees play a big part in that. Well, tell me this. So you mentioned going to school at St. Joe. Your mom's a teacher there. You know, you got this big family. Y'all, I'm sure y'all have all this fun, the kind of country fun. What was St. Joe like for you? I mean, when you look back, because I just kind of re-entered the St. Joe universe through my older boy. He just finished kindergarten there last year, and he'll start first grade here in a few weeks. And it's been a very nostalgic time in my life. I'm a kind of late to the table dad. Most of my friends, like Chad, who we mentioned, have gotten their kids out of there by now. Some of our old classmates like Ben Parent are still kicking around coaching ball, even though the girls are older. But when you think back, not as a parent or an adult, but to those early days of going to school, what is it you remember fondly about the St. Joseph experience and elementary school in Ponchatoula?
Oh, the friendships, the lasting friendships, because we were such a tight-knit group, and it was such a small group, and you always stayed together.
Right.
So
How big was your class? As I recall, we had like give or take 16 boys and 8 girls or something. And, those 25 people kind of were like brothers and sisters by the 8th grade graduation. Yeah, how big was your class, and what was that bond like?
I think it was, I want to say 18, but it could have been in the mid-20s or, 22
But
or something.
just graduated one class though?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it was kind of funny. So, I was, like you said, I'm tall, like I'm almost 6 foot. So our kindergarten teacher, I always think back, Miss Becky Roberts at the time was my kindergarten teacher.
Oh, what a sweet lady. Great. Now, speaking of great families, that Roberts family is a great one.
Definitely. So we had our picture in front of the school, and, it had, people sitting in the front and in the back. Well, the back, it goes like this, and then it's me and 2 boys, like a foot taller than everybody else.
Right. Well, I was on the other end of the spectrum. I was the shortest kid in the class. And I remember, in fact, we're getting our caps and gowns fitted, and it was the first time I think ever as a group you had to get measured or have your height done in front of everyone. And I was toward the latter end of it. But all these tall girls, you know, one Landry, one Uter, all these tall girls ahead of me, and they're like 5'6". And of course, I know I'm shorter than them, but I was just terrified that I wouldn't make the 5 foot mark. And I think maybe I barely got there, or maybe the person just was kind and marked me up at that, even though I was shorter. But yeah, that's something you can be very self-conscious about. I know as a short boy, I thought about it a lot. As a tall girl, you may have been similarly, you know.
Oh, it was. I was very self-conscious because by the time I was get to 8th grade, I still only had like two or three guys taller than me.
Oh wow, yeah, that's you're dancing, looking down on us or whoever. That did they have the Heart Fun dance at SJS your year? What wasn't that a big deal? That was something, huh?
And then our field trip to Rosaryville.
Oh yeah.
That was a big deal.
Absolutely. They'd pull out the pool. We'd get wet, we'd play, we'd get grass all over us, jump in the pool, and then rinse, repeat. That was such a great day, man. What great times. We've got comments coming in here, so I want to read. Johnny Ann Jackson, thank you for tuning in. Says, yeah, didn't like the measurements back then at all. Well, that makes at least two of us, Johnny Ann, for sure. Folks, we're here with Councilwoman Kim Landry Coates. And if you have a comment, if you'd like to ask her a question or offer her some encouragement, you know, just say, hey, whatever, feel free to comment below. And I'll do my best, as we've done here with Johnny Ann, to get your comment up here on the screen during the show. That's if you're watching live here. You know, we're talking about growing up in Ponchatoula, you know, St. Joe, this little fun group. You know, it sounds very similar in your class to mine. You mentioned how close y'all were, and I know in my class we're still close to this day. What about things in town? Was the Strawberry Festival the big deal back then? You know, was it other activities? You know, what do you remember about childhood in Ponchatoula that really sticks out all these years later?
Well, way back then, going to town was a big deal. You know, like you didn't really go to town a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it had to be something special to go to town. So, because it seemed like that was so far away.
I'm so glad you meant I was going to ask that, because when I was born, we lived in Killian for a little while. And though we moved back when I was still a toddler, we kept the farm out there for many years to come. So I have these memories of weekends and even some weekdays and summers staying out at the farm. And, you know, Killian's not as much further than where you lived, but it's still, you know, it's not like driving to Lafayette or something. But as a little kid, I mean, we might as well have been on the other side of the Mississippi River. It just felt like forever. And there was no, you know, Carter Plantation subdivision down the road and all these new stores that they have. I mean, you know, if you had to go to the grocery, it was it was like, you know, the wise men taking a camel, you know, back in the day. It seemed to take forever. Little kid time. And in fact, it's kind of funny. I was with my dad and my son, Luke, playing at the house today. And he was asking Dad something about time. He knew my brother, his brother, my other son, had a doctor's appointment, and he was trying to figure out how long it would be until he would leave me and Papa. And he said something like, how long is it? And Papa said, 30 minutes. It's just a half hour. He goes, half an hour is a long time to a kid, you know? It's true. To us, it's like that. But to them, man, that's forever. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had a really happy, you know, fun childhood. I know you had good people all around you. Let's talk about the next chapter in life. You know, you went, like I did, from the little school of St. Joseph to the very large school of PHS, which now is like, you know, almost a city unto itself, busting at the seams with 2,000 or some odd students. But what do you remember about that transition from 18 to 20 students to probably, you know, 400 students maybe? What was that like for you?
It was exciting, but horrifying.
Right.
Like Miss Sherlyn Miser,
the best. Yeah.
You know, yes, our principal at South.
What a wonderful lady. Yes. Amen.
Yes, at St. Joseph. So, you know, I was kind of a quiet child. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I did run for parish council, she came up to me and she was like, you, the quiet one in politics?
Right.
You know, so high school did kind of bring me out my shell some. So I did play basketball at St. Joseph for 4 years. Our lovely.
Who was the coach back then?
So I had 4 different coaches.
What? Wow.
Yes. So our 5th grade year, so there wasn't enough girls, so they allowed the 5th grade girls to play, and that was Miss Jack was our coach. So
she was the PE coach at the time, or PE teacher, right? Okay.
Yes, yes. So she walked in and we didn't know what to do. We didn't even know how to dribble a ball. She had no point guard, no nothing. I remember it was horrifying because we would dribble and then walk with the ball, So,
right.
But then our 6th grade year was Miss Evelyn Thompson.
Oh yeah, now we're talking. Yeah, that's basketball family there now. Yeah, yeah, those Thompsons can play.
Yes. So and Mr. Arthur was coaching the boys at the time.
Right, I remember him coaching when Clay was playing there. Yeah, he was a great coach.
So that was great. We improved. We got a little better.
And as I recall, my coach Mutt Burner, who took over for him, was the assistant coach for Coach Thompson. Was that the case as you recall?
Yes. So the next year, I think Mr. Muddy was the boys coach full time. And
they've had such a strong tradition in that position. Our old classmate Ben Perrin's doing it now, and he's an exceptional coach. Yeah, but all those guys, the ones we've mentioned, Milton Hill. They had 2-time state champion Trish Landesh, coaching there before she got to PHS. And
she coached me.
Oh, wow, that's cool. So you changed coaches a lot, but you eventually hit a gold mine in her. What was it like playing for that? Because she wasn't yet the citywide icon and favorite daughter yet. She was, a mom and a great former player.
She was still an A-Bear.
Oh, true. Yeah. That's true. She was born with celebrity, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
But back then she was known as Dennis Abear's daughter,
Yes.
Eventually he became, Trish Landesh's dad. But yeah, that's cool.
So she came in on our 7th grade year.
Okay.
And she was wonderful. She pushed us hard, we were definitely improving and getting better. And with me being so tall and playing a forward and a center and stuff, she actually brought a lady that was, I think it was Belgium. She played women's basketball in Europe and stuff.
Oh wow! So like a pro from Europe. Wow, that's
impressive. And I'm tall, but this lady was a giant. But she came in and taught me how to do some under the goal moves and
like footwork, post moves down low. Cool.
Yes. So that year, I think we ended up coming in 3rd place in the tournament. Like the River Parish's Catholic school tournament and stuff. So I think we just lost a few games, but so we improved, and then she left us and she went to Laranja.
Yeah, I can see the pain in your face. It's like you still miss her all these years later. Trish, thanks for coming back. I think you broke a lot of hearts when you left SJS to go to Laranja, but you made up for it by bringing back those.
We were hoping she would stay another year and then go to Ponchatoula.
Oh yeah. That would have been cool.
Things happened as they needed to. So
it's a good example of kind of unanswered prayers. I think often about how, say early in life I had my heart broken by this girl or that, and I was always disappointed at the time, but it left the door open to meet my wife at the Strawberry Festival in my 30s. And all these things happen for a reason. It's hard to see it at the time. But that's neat. It's fun talking about that. And I'm glad you mentioned the old River Parishes League, because St. Joe did play in a different conference back then. And Holy Ghost and St. Joe were the only kind of what I call North Shore schools. And man, we would drive down there, whether it was Lutcher or, St. Charles Parish, St. James Parish, all those areas, and play those guys. That was great. You've got a comment here, and I'd like to bring it up. Joe Meir. Joe, thank you for tuning into the show. One of the best known guys in Hammond. Great real estate appraiser, just a great all around guy. He says, Councilwoman Kim, we see almost half of new homeowners are people that live in Tangi already. what do you consider the biggest item that is bringing new people into the parish from your councilwoman's point of view?
Well, I think we have a beautiful parish. I think we still have rural areas like we talked about, and I
Right.
think that the beauty of our parish. I get compliments all the time about the council and Robbie's administration on um, being proactive, in the litter is one of them.
Right.
Because I go all over the state. I've made a lot of friends and different acquaintances through the parish council of people in other parishes. And, I hear from other people said, man, I wish our parish would do that. I wish, we had people that would, take charge and things
Because
like
I mean,
that.
and you guys roll up your sleeves. I see you and Bridget, your counterpart, the councilwoman across town, and Robbie Miller, our parish president, who you mentioned. When y'all do litter pickup, you actually go out there yourself and get your hands dirty. You don't just delegate to a team. Do you think that has a big role to play in that, or that lead by
Um,
example kind of thing?
I think so. I think it has, that we care.
Hmm.
We want to better our community and keep it looking as beautiful as we can. There are
Right.
challenges and stuff, but we have great businesses and stuff here too. And then the festivals. I think people really enjoy, having the festivals and coming here and the city's doing a lot to bring businesses and bring people out, the new little concert they had and stuff. So I
Yeah,
think people
that seemed like a
really
big success.
enjoy to also have things to do with, inside of the town and the community.
Yeah. Those are great points. Joe, thank you for that question. We appreciate it. And
And
I personally, go ahead. I'm
Joe
sorry.
was actually in leadership Tangipahoa with me.
Tell us about that. That's a great organization. I'm a proud Leadership Tangipahoa graduate. Did it about 10 years ago with my friend Chad Richard, who we mentioned earlier, and Wesley Daniels, who I mentioned earlier. And the three of us, this little Ponchatoula clique, went and met folks from all over the parish, had a blast, but more importantly, learned a ton about our parish, the government, the business. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little description, overview, and if you still believe in the program, a plug for Leadership Tangipahoa, because I personally believe it's a great program.
Oh, it's wonderful. I was in the 2009 class, so it's been a while. But at the time I was, doing business and accounting and different things. So um, it was great to be exposed to all the different sections of the parish and what we have to offer, and meeting new people and seeing different points of view. I really enjoyed the weekend we had at Rosaryville to start it off. Like, we had to spend the weekend there, and they would section us out in groups and do group work. And it was really good to hear different topics and points of view, like I said. Um, but then traveling every month to go see different parts of the parish was amazing. I had no idea back then at the time what we had and what the parish had to offer and how some of it worked together. So it very, very good program. And I encourage anyone
Yeah.
that's interested to really look into it and try to participate.
And a
Someone
lot of,
asked me if
oh,
you
go
had
ahead.
to have a college degree. I
Mm-mm.
don't think that is,
No,
but
you
I
you
don't.
don't. No, you absolutely don't. And it's what I found is a lot of people don't realize that certain employers will sponsor people to do the
Yes.
program. So they will not only pay your dues to do it, but pay you for the day off. And it's great because you're in there with people from all walks of life. You mentioned that you did it during the phase in your life when you were in business, and there's certainly a strong private sector influence there, bankers, lawyers, doctors, whatever. But there are people from the education system, teachers. There are people from Tangipahoa Hope Parish government, and so on. And it's just I think none of us know everything about the parish. I bet Robbie Miller doesn't know everything about the parish. I bet Gordon Burgess, as great as he was, didn't learn it all. 30 plus years as our leader as president. That program will open your eyes to things you just never knew were there, and certainly give you a good feel for the different services available, the needs of the community, and so on. So, Joe, thank you for bringing all this up, and thank you again for your comment. And he thanks you there, Kim, with another comment. We have a few other friends of the program chiming in, so I'd like to show their comments off. Ryan Griffin. Ryan says, Kim, how are you doing? And what's up? Ryan serves with me on the TARC board. He's a great guy. And Ryan, it's sure good to hear from you, friend. And
Ryan's wonderful.
Isn't he great? Yeah.
Oh, he always hits me up for sponsorships and stuff too, and I love giving him to him. So
he does such a great job for us at TARC fundraising. Through the radiothon, everything we do. He approaches everything with enthusiasm, and he's not afraid to work. Like you say, he hits you up. There's nothing that's less fun, I think you'll agree, in politics or charity or, any kind of situation than asking for money. It's just the worst. But Ryan's not afraid to step up and do it when many others won't. So, Ryan, thank you for your service to the community and your upbeat attitude, and for watching the show. And speaking of favorite people, one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Faye Ivaniski. I saw you the other day at La Coretta, having fun with your family. It's good to see you watching the show. She says, Kim, that you are a caring person, and yes, you do lead by example. Miss Faye, thank you for sharing that. That means a lot coming from you, an Annie Award winner, a true big shot in the community. Thank you for saying that about our friend Kim, because you're certainly right, folks.
Faye if you just used to work together.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
In banking, yes.
A lot of y'all came. My mom worked at the bank too ages ago at First Guarantee, and it's so fun how you make these friends that kind of last for life in those early jobs wherever you go. One of the finest women we have in the parish, and it was nice to see you get recognized this year, Miss Faye. You certainly probably deserve the Annie Award every year. So good job, and thank you. Folks, if you're tuning in and joined us a little late, we are here with our local parish councilwoman, Kim Landry Coates. And we've been kind of talking about her experience growing up, going to St. Joseph, moving into high school, playing basketball, all this fun. Let's talk about that next chapter in life, Kim, if you will, where you kind of make that transition from being a kid to being an adult. What kind of happened next when you left school and entered, because you kind of have alluded to several careers you've had here, private sector, business, accounting, banking, let's talk about that journey, going back to what we were talking about, which was school and what came next.
So after Ponchatoula, I went to Southeastern, and I just never really exactly knew what I wanted to do. I was in the business section, but it was a little boring. I wanted, back then we were typing, and we were typing on a green screen with the big floppy disk and stuff.
Yeah, oh, that was miserable. You'd lose stuff.
Yeah. My dream was to do animations with Disney. So
whoa, that's good. Yeah. If my little boys were here, they would perk up. We just got back from Disneyland a couple weeks ago, and in fact, my little boy Luke wore his Mickey Mouse ears over to me at Papa's house for breakfast this morning. So they're all about the mouse right now at ages 4 and 6. Where did that dream come from? Was it from watching it? Because I know out there in your neighborhood, it was Disneyville. Like we were talking about the research earlier. I remember they would have all these, painted wooden animations of Mickey Mouse or whatnot in the yard. You'd see Donald Duck hanging out with the cows out there. Tell us about where that dream came from and
I don't really know. I just know. So computers at the time was just getting popular, and we just came out with the dial-up I-55 to get internet.
Yeah, right. Can you still hear that noise in your ear? That kind of yeah.
So it was just I wanted to design. I wanted to animate. but I didn't really want to leave home. I didn't want to leave here and go to live in Disney World.
That Warner Brothers, Disney, there was no
Yeah.
studio in Beatico or Pumpkin Center or in
Yeah.
between. So yeah.
No.
No, I can
So,
relate. It's kind of like when I realized that there was, I wanted to be a sports agent early in my career, and I realized you can't do that from Ponchatoula. It's just not going to work. So,
right.
so you
But
chose your hometown, your family, your people that you
yeah.
love, kind of over probably your preferred career, and we've benefited for it. Thank you.
But so I started going to my counselors and different things and was asking. So then I was pushed into, well, why don't you go do AutoCAD? Like we had, IT, industrial technology at Southeastern. So I'm like, yeah, sounds great. Well, I didn't really realize I wasn't going to be drawing like fun stuff to me.
What were you drafting, like house plans or something, or
No, not
what
even
they have you
that.
working? Oh, not
I
even
was
that fun,
drawing
huh?
latch plates and flanges and
Oh,
valves,
yikes! Yeah,
gas lines, pipelines, which was very interesting. But at the time, I really didn't have the passion
right.
for that, and have anyone to kind of help me, kind of understand it. Like if I went to school and the teacher kind of talked over my head, and then I had to go home and try to figure it out. So that was pretty rough. Um,
Sounds challenging.
but yeah, so I just ended up getting my general studies degree, which I had a huge concentration in industrial technology, which
Right.
I would say my favorite class was welding.
Come on, really?
I loved it.
Well,
So,
I believe you because my good pal Will Richardson took welding as an elective and just it knocked his socks off. I mean, he had such fun with it. But you don't see many, pretty brunette women welding, or so I would think. So, were you the only woman in the class? Or one of
there
the
was
few?
two of us.
Okay,
There was two.
cool. Did the other one become a professional welder, or were both of you? Nah.
Not really. It was hot. It was very hot.
Yeah, yeah.
But so the first week, we had to have to do a safety test. And every question you missed, you had to write a page essay on that question. So he took
That's something you don't expect out of a welding class. You're probably not expecting all that paperwork. Yeah.
Yes. So he was very, very safety oriented.
Right.
So I got 100 on it. So I beat all the guys that actually had been welding for a living or being in the plant. So that was pretty cool.
I bet you rub it in a little bit. I bet that was a little salt in the wound to those proud welders.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. But then just kind of moved on. I think electricity kind of really got me. It was like, okay, I got to do something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up getting into finance. I was working at loan companies, and then I ended up going to work for our John Vaughn. So
my cousin, yeah.
So I went to
rest in peace, man. I love John Vaughn. What a great guy, man.
He was great. He was great. A lot of fun, a lot of stress, but
yeah, I bet.
But
I remember I was in like 8th grade or so when my mom became a mortgage lender at First County Bank.
Okay.
And I remember she would come home crying because these people that she would grow to care about, customers, would get declined for loans sometimes if their credit didn't work out. And it can be a really hard profession, because you just start rooting for people. And, not everybody can get a loan if they don't qualify. And was that what was challenging about it for you? Or where did the stress come from, if not there?
Well, John was more on the construction and commercial side.
Okay, so he's dealing with professional business owners and big money people, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. So that's where I kind of started learning about inventory and accounts receivable for lending and stuff.
Gotcha.
And learned a lot about the construction side, actually on the loan side of it, and doing draws and making sure things got done timely and things like that. So that kind of got my feet wet and really got into it. Well, cool. I ended up leaving after a year, I was pregnant with my daughter. So my son was he was 20 months when she was born. But at the time, my dad was sick and stuff. So I decided right before the baby's born, take a little time to be home and then give my mom some time with my
Help
dad.
her out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then I had 2 babies.
Yeah. So you've got 2 under 2
Yeah.
plus helping your mom with that. Wow. That's a lot on your plate. Yeah.
So when my daughter Jazz was 14 days old, my daddy passed away.
God, how difficult must that have been? I mean, I'm sure your hormones are still raging. You've got all this going on. The 2-year-old's not slowing down or stopping because of any of this. That had to be one of the biggest challenges of your life, if not the biggest, huh?
It was very devastating.
How do you get through something like that, Kim?
You don't.
I just can't imagine it.
You don't. Not at all. And it was really getting to the time, where, Steve and I had just been married a few years, and we were just starting to go and spend time down in Manchac at the time. So I grew up down there, but kind of like through my high school years and stuff, we didn't go down or visit.
Yeah, so you were kind of getting reacquainted. Can I back up one bit, because I'm glad you mentioned Steve, because we have kind of skipped that romantic chapter in life, and I think that's one of some of our viewers' favorite thing about the show, as we will often talk about kind of the good old days and how you met. So if you wouldn't mind, Steve may kill you or me both, but tell us a little bit about your love story, because it is such a neat story. We have these 2 families that have been around for 100 years. And, you guys have done this beautiful thing with your children and, this home you built together. How'd y'all meet? How'd y'all get together? What's the story there?
So I was at just about that time moving to general studies. And out of high school, I worked part-time for one of the video poker places in Hammond.
Okay.
Throughout the whole 6 years they were here. So it was a good college job because it floated hours and different things. So it worked around my schedule.
Right.
Which was really great. And I learned a lot. I ended up working in the vault. So I learned a lot about audits and taxes and things like that at the time. And I worked with his sister, Casey, in the vault. So me and her would be in this little room for about 6 to 8 hours a day, and all we did was talk.
Yeah.
So she just started, I need to set you up with my brother. And I just kind of like, it's okay. And then finally I was like, okay. And she's like, wait, what?
Did you make her show you a picture first? Or, I mean, how did this go? Oh, what? Not good. Okay, good.
Nope. This was a total blind date.
Blind date. And you must have trusted her. And that was, a lot of courage by her, because you guys are right there in the same bunker. So if it, if brother does you wrong or it doesn't go well, she's going to hear about it.
Yeah, but she was like, I think y'all just, could hang out and have fun, whatever, go on a date and stuff. So I was like, okay. So she called him right there.
Wow. With you sitting next to her. Just
yes. So she's like, hey, I got you a date.
And if we have any young viewers, folks, this was in the days when this was actually something you used to call people with your voice. You didn't text. You had to make a real call.
No. I think the bag phones were just coming out at that time.
Yeah, those big bag phones. Those things, they had a heck of a battery and a lot of range, you know.
But you didn't use it unless an emergency.
No, because it was like a car note. If you used that thing for more than a few minutes, it was super expensive.
Yeah, but right there, she got him on the phone, and he's like, "Well, put her on the phone." So I got on the phone, and he's like, "Do you want to go for a bike ride after church?" So he had a motorcycle. So after church, he came pick me up, and the rest was history.
Very cool, very cool. Young men, if you're listening, there's a lot we can learn from that story there. Just the right amounts, equal parts danger on the bike and strong family values with church. That's
he took me.
Well done. Yeah, where'd y'all go?
we rode all over, but we couldn't talk.
Yeah,
So,
true. Yeah, yeah.
you
I didn't
know,
think about that.
so we went up like north of Hammond somewheres, up off of River Road somewheres, and he just parked the bike and we sat down on like a little side road or somewhere. I don't really remember where it was, but we just kind
Yeah.
of sat there and just talked under a tree, and so it was really neat.
That's a really cool story. You don't hear that one every day.
Yeah.
Well, when did you know? I mean, when did it go from a cute beginning and a great first date to this is
Um,
the love of my life? I want to marry this man and have his babies.
so we just would talk. We talked on the phone a good bit, and then his son, so Storm, which
Uh-huh.
is our son,
Yeah.
I do claim him, turned 3 that week,
Okay.
and
What a
so
cute age.
it was so cute. So we went on a few more dates, and then it was coming up to Easter, and he's like, "Okay, I'd like you to meet Storm." And
So
so
you
I
knew
made,
it was serious when he was willing to bring
yeah,
you into Storm's life.
yes. So
Yeah.
I made Storm a big Easter basket with, he was all into
Hmm.
Batman and
Yeah.
Spider-Man stuff. So I made him a big Easter basket and went and met his family. And then
Yeah.
actually, my mom's family is from St. James Parish.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that. Okay.
yeah, so that's where she graduated from Letcher. So
So what's your mom's maiden name?
Duplessis.
Duplessis. Okay.
hmm
All
So,
right.
so yeah, took him down there to, the Cajun country where he stayed.
He
So,
had to get River Parish approval before, he could.
yeah, yeah, my grandma, hey, chef, you know. So,
I
so
love
it
it.
was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the Strawberry Festival. I think we went. He worked a lot, but
Uh-huh.
we ended up after work. He came and we went to the Strawberry Festival, and I think Van Broussard was playing.
Oh, what a great show.
And
Yeah, yeah.
La Fleur de Lis and stuff at the
Hmm.
time. So we kind of went, and then I think that was when we kind of knew, you know. So,
So hey, anybody new to Ponchatoula, take notes on this. The Strawberry Festival is where it happens. That's where I met my wife.
right.
Kim's here saying it kind of helped seal the deal on hers. Love is in the air come April at the Strawberry Festival.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll let you off the romantic hot seat. And Steve, forgive me for interrogating your wife about your very private business, but I can tell you, being probably closer to 100 episodes into this than 50, the thing I get asked about a ton or mentioned when I see people when they mention the show is they kind of love the love story angles. They're like, oh, I didn't realize so and so met him or her there, and it's something people get into. So thank you for sharing that part of your life. So we were talking about your career before we kind of set aside. You're telling us about working in the vault. Um, all this stuff to me kind of seems a million miles away from parish government. And I do want to get the rest of. I know you basically have two jobs, right? Parish council is not a full-time job, so you do other stuff, and I'd love to hear about that too. But eventually, now or later, your choice. I'd love to kind of hear what gave rise to this thought for running for office, because while I have been very proud to see my friend Kim do so great as a parish councilwoman, and I won't say I'm surprised at all that you're doing it well, because you've been a success in everything you've touched. But I will confess that I was very surprised that you ran in the first place, because I did remember you as kind of Kelly Landry's quiet sister. I mean, you were just not, a chatterbox. Somebody told me William Sims from childhood was running for parish council. I'd say, yeah, that makes sense, but so how do we get from there to here? What's the story there?
So, so Steve and I just, trucking along in our daily lives. He's working construction, big equipment operator. I'm a banker.
Right.
Do banking and stuff 20 years. And we we started going down to Manchac. Like I said, I grew up down there. My dad,
Right.
with him working offshore in the spring, he would put out maybe 300 hooks or so in the lake.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Fish.
That's serious. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I loved going down there with him in this, his little skiff, And so when I met Steve, Steve had a boat, and it was like, oh, we had something else in common. you know. So his middle brother, Timmy, had a camp, so we would go and stay with them and, you know, hang out. And I was like, man, this is like my childhood. Like, this is perfect. And actually, I'll tell you another little romantic story was.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Steve.
Give the people what they want. You know, they don't want to hear about politics.
He anchored a boat, his skiff, out in North Pass, and we were swimming out just in the middle of the pass, just the two of us. And he just kind of looked at me and said, "I'm gonna marry you one day."
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Good thing you were swimming, not standing. Your knees might have buckled in that moment.
Well, so to finish that story, with, I don't know how long it was, but I turned around and Steve said, "Don't move." I said, "Why?" "Here comes a snake."
No!
And it swam right by me. And I'm like, kind of panicking. Here comes another snake.
No, a water moccasin will ruin the mood, I hear. You know, I've never experienced that, but I can imagine that, that changes the mood.
It wasn't a water moccasin.
Oh,
but
thank God.
I said, "Get me out of this water now."
I've been with my wife 12 years and married 10 years, and I have not yet been able to convince her to swim with us in the brown water of Manchac. And if she watches your episode, she never will for the next 10 years.
I'm sorry.
Plus, no, it's okay. Brandy's not getting in there. She's a landlubber, if you will. But that's funny. That's so you get to you circle back to Manchac, and is it kind of the passion for the preservation of the place that kind of get you going? Or, I mean, how does that move you toward politics?
Well, the memories, you know, and so my kids were born and they were older, say about 4th grade or so. And we asked his dad if we could go stay at, you know, his family's camp and stuff. So we spent a weekend down there, and Steve's like, "We really need our own place. Like, we're kind of outgrowing staying with his brothers and stuff." So we just started asking around and realized we had a lot of friends in the area. And one of our friends like, "Well, I think Andrew Fowler's right there, you know, he's looking to sell his lot." So I looked up Andrew and we made the offer and put it in. So we built our camp. He's
a great guy. While we're talking to Andrew Fowler, I just want to give him a quick plug because he's a great surveyor. I mean, and his wife, it's a wonderful family. Yeah. But if you need help, he's just a great guy. I want to kind of throw him a free plug. That's a good dude there.
He actually said when we bought the lot, he used that to get him some more equipment to move on up and stuff. And
well, I appreciate that because he's done, you know, my wife and I's place, our lot here in town, our family farm out in Laranja, you know, small property, big farm, whatever. He can do it all. So sorry to interrupt your story, Kim, but when you mention a good person people may not know, I'd love to share that with them.
But so it took us about 3 years to build. It's Steve is one to do almost everything himself. He's kind of a perfectionist when he builds something. It took us 3 years to build our house too, which we did probably 90% of it.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, you got a handy guy, but also a guy who's doing it right, you know, so that's cool.
So when the graphite plant and the battery plant came up to be put down in Manchac, you know, it was like we've put our heart and soul into, you know, creating our own place down there. And to think of having chemicals and different things to really mess up the water scared us.
Yeah.
So we started getting messages from other camp owners. So I'm just sitting on the couch and Steve's reading the paper, and we started getting these messages, and it's like, wait, what? So there was a few of us that got together and had a little meeting at Brady's one evening, and one of the gentlemen said, you know, we need to start a coalition and to kind of be a voice together. And then we just kind of went from there. Well, Steve couldn't really make like he was trying to make calls when he could, but he
Right.
worked every day.
Yeah, he's super busy.
And so, and I was a little bit more flexible with my job and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I just started making some calls and started researching. And the more I researched, the more it kind of scared us.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I talked to different scientists and different environmentalists and stuff. So that's where we kind of got on board. And we
Right.
actually had, you know, somebody suggest to Steve that he needed to run for parish council.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So then the battery plant, so I met people throughout the entire state of Louisiana with this project. And it did get voted down, and they moved over on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
But then when the Manchac Village was being proposed, you know, I had learned so much about the wetlands working on the graphite plant, to where I saw the dredging of the canals and putting all these different boats, and then the safety, because
Yeah.
like you get caught in a fog down in Manchac and you
Mm-hmm.
think you're heading back to the boat launch, you can end up going the opposite way and end
Oh,
up in Lake Pontchartrain. And
like you, I grew up down there. We had a camp on South Pass, and absolutely,
yes.
you know, it's not like a well-lit
So,
street with street lights. And you know, I want to thank you for that. By the time this all came along, I was off the port commission, but I had been a prior president of Port Manchac and a commissioner. And the reason I volunteered to serve in that capacity was to help protect that local environment, because you know we've got this delicate balance. Of course, we want to bring jobs to the area and improve our economy and have better paying jobs and all that. But unfortunately, you know, our forefathers put this port in a place that's not very good for a port. You know, South Pass is wide and deep and pretty straight. You know, boats can come and go there with less problem. But North Pass, man, it is narrow and curvaceous and shallow. And you're right, it's not really ideal for barge traffic. So if we're not really careful about what we allow to go down there, you know, not just the camps, but I mean, we've got lots of critters and hunters and a lot going on. You know, this precious, beautiful environment that gives us so much is really at risk. So thank you for stepping up to protect it. That's a pretty cool origin story.
yeah,
I think we see too many politicians these days go, I think I'd like to add honorable to the front of my name. So I'll run for office, or that looks pretty cool. Maybe I can make some money off of it. So
well, I
your
mean,
origin story is a bit different. I applaud it.
yeah, when you look at the state master plan, the coastal state master plan, and you see in possibly 50 years, there is no more Manchac.
Oh, it's
That
terrifying.
gets, yeah. So, so those were the kind of things. So at the time, Steve started talking to a few friends and different people about the parish council. Well, we had the first huge litter cleanup in 2018 for Manchac. And I had been talking to the Manchac Boat Association that's been doing this cleanup for years, but it was only a handful of them that do it all the time.
Right.
And it's like, you know what?
And let's give a shout out to them, because you took it to the next level, and we're going to hear about that. But man, these are people that are just getting out there and hustling in the heat and the mud year after year. So Manchac, you know, Boat Association, thank you. It's great to see Kim and this new blood come in, kick it up a notch. But boy, you guys are kind of the OGs down there, and we want to give y'all some props. But please continue, Kim. It's a great story.
Well, you know, so I wanted to help them out. So I started contacting some people with the parish and different, like, at the time, Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation and stuff. So I started helping promote a litter cleanup. And we got 125 volunteers.
Whoa.
We picked up 11 tons of litter.
11 tons. Just 22,000 pounds. Holy crap.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Trailers and trailers. You know, we were able to get with wildlife and fisheries, and we're able to get abandoned boats and different things out. So
And let's
parish.
give those guys a shout out too, if you don't
Oh,
mind me interrupting you. I live next door to Lieutenant Cullen Sellers. His whole
Cullen is
team,
wonderful.
they do great. I mean, those guys, they care and they put their money and sweat and where their mouth is, and they step up and do it right. So thank you to our local wildlife agents. We're blessed with some really good ones.
And Entergy.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
our
They,
local Entergy guys
they're
really
awesome.
came out. They cooked for us. They brought the airboat. They brought the backhoes. So Jason Dillon, one of our Ponchatoula
Yeah.
guys,
I went to
him
school with
and his
Jason. Well, that's
crew.
my boy. Yeah, Dylan's a great one.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. So that's my
Jason, we're
buddy.
proud of you. If we go back 20 years to high school, I don't know that we'd have predicted you'd turn out so well, man. Good job. No, in all seriousness, a great guy, and you're right.
Thank you.
He'll hustle.
Yeah. So then after the cleanup, I got a message from Ginger with the litter department that they were doing, they were having something at the parish council meeting about it. So I said, Steve, let's go to a parish council meeting. You're considering running, so let's go. We've never been to one.
Right.
So we went and we sat down. Well, Ken, What Action 17 came out and said, Kim, come do an interview for us. Give us an
And is that
update.
because he knew you were hustling with all this cleanup effort at that
Yes.
time? Or okay.
Yes. And then, just everything that was kind of going on with from the battery plant and different
Gotcha.
things.
Kind of the Save Man Shack effort. Yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted to update. So I did, and then I came back and the meeting was over. So we left and we get in the car and Steve said, nope, not doing it. He said, they're going to elect you before me. So he said, it's all you. So, so that
Well, good
was
for him, man. Not you were ready to stand by your man and play the part, but good for him, man. Now he flipped the script on us.
So that was the beginning. That was early 2018. And I still wasn't sure. So I just prayed. I prayed for over a year and just asked God.
No better approach than that.
Where did He want me? And if He wanted me to continue down this path, to show me the path. And that's how I got
here. And when did you know? When did He share that with you, and how did that revelation come about?
Probably spring 2019. I knew for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I was still trying to decide and still trying to understand, how it worked. Because like I said, I never saw myself going into politics or anything like that ever. So, but then, then I started taking notice of the traffic and the schools and the subdivisions, the building, like you were saying. And I'm really worried and concerned about the levee that's being built on the south side of Lake Marpaw.
Right. And its effect on drainage here in our area?
Yes. So
tell us about that, please.
Well, over the last few years, just sitting on the dock in Manchac, the tide and the water, it changes so much and more frequently than it ever did before. And we're getting higher and higher water levels than we've ever did before. So I've reached out to the Corps, I've reached out to CPRA, all these different entities. I've gone and testified at some public hearings to try to voice our concerns. And, I keep being told that the levee is so far inland in the swamp that it's not going to affect the water level. So,
But it sounds like common sense and your own two eyes are telling you a different story. Is that right?
Well, what really opened my eyes was Ida. So Hurricane Ida, the direction and the winds and everything was the first storm that went through Lake Marpaw like it did. Like we had Hurricane Ike and Isaac before. So Isaac brought the highest water levels in Manchac and on the south than we've ever had before. But it was all water and surge. Like there was no winds and stuff.
Right.
So if you look now, after Hurricane Ida, there was people in La Place on top of their roofs. So if you're going to build a wall where that water can't get to them, where does the water go?
Yeah. Common sense up
Yeah,
here by
so
us.
which unfortunately I think St. James, which is part of my mom's family, I think they're going to get hit really hard, and then
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see higher levels,
Yeah.
lake levels here.
Well, I'm glad you bring up this issue of drainage, because one thing I've had the privilege of serving as a drainage board attorney for about 10 years before passing that torch to my brilliant colleague, Megan Notriana, who you know well. And, that means in at least the end of my tenure there, I got to see you in action in the beginning of your tenure as a parish councilwoman and drainage board, member. But I don't think that average Joe walking the street in Ponchatoula realizes that our parish councilwoman here, depending on which side of town, either you or Bridget, is also the drainage board commissioner for the area. And for a decade, I saw you guys in action do a wonderful job, be great stewards of our money. It was one of the most efficient, clean audit places I've ever seen. But y'all have done just great work, and so I want to applaud you on that. But if you wouldn't mind, can you kind of explain to local folks kind of how drainage works in the area? Because I don't think everybody gets that. Say, for example, the parish council doesn't directly handle drainage. There are separate drainage boards, and your drainage board number one covering this area, but you're not the only drainage board. And can you just kind of explain for folks how that works so they can know your role and how to contact you or whomever they should they have a drainage question or issue?
Yeah, so the drainage board is that covers Ponchatoula and the south end is only about maybe 3/4 of the parish. And then further up north, there's additional drainage
right
up there. So we down here in this drainage board, we pay millage on our taxes that goes to the drainage board for us to do work. So back in say the 50s or so, the state had and maintained our laterals, which are our big drainage canals, and then they handed it over to all the parishes.
Right.
So the drainage board has all these laterals that we maintain. So we usually
So this would, for example, be like the big canal that goes behind Walmart through the old JC Park area and runs right through town. And this means that you, as a drainage board member, your commission essentially has a separate office from parish government. So y'all have an office in Tickfaw where you, as a drainage board commission, have your own public meetings, I think 2 a month, just like you do for the parish, but it's a separate outfit than parish government technically. Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
Totally separate.
Right.
So when people call me to have their ditches cleaned, I have to ask them, do you need the ditch by your road in front of your house or the side ditch? Because it's totally
because it's different entities that cover, right? Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. And it's convenient for us as citizens in that we have the same elected official either way, but it's confusing in that if you call parish councilwoman Coates, and you're talking about a drainage lateral, she's not calling her parish office to fix it. She's calling Amy. She's calling Tickfaw at the drainage. And thankfully, y'all have a great director in Kylie Bates. Speaking of Ponchatoula families, there's no better old family than the Bates family. Right. But my point here is it's helpful to educate people on this. And again, we don't have enough time here. We're at the hour mark. I promise I'll get you back to your family. So I don't want to keep you forever, but I do want to thank you for your great work on drainage and commend you because I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. Those meetings can be long and boring. They can be very technical. They can be very heated when people don't want something built next door. And you've handled yourself professionally, made wise decisions, and you're always there to listen to your constituents and also, to research the issues. You mentioned earlier during Manshack, calling all these scientists, one thing I commend you for is doing your homework. You seem to come to meetings prepared and with, a lot of homework and authority. And I appreciate that. Before we run out of time on the topic of drainage, is there anything else you want to share with our viewers before we go?
So Hurricane Ida did a lot of damage here. right within a week, our drainage board decided to, we would spend the money to drone all of our large laterals. So we spent the money, we droned everything, and so the drone would go and GPS every tree that was down. And then they put, I mean, stack of a report. So we had over about 30, average 39 trees down per mile in 200 miles.
Wow, that's amazing. Yikes.
Well, FEMA or NRCS and all, they look at anything 25 trees or over as a lot. So we were well past that.
Yeah.
So our contractor and stuff looked, we were estimating about $40 million in cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
Our property taxes puts up about $8 million a year. Or we carry about $8 million.
So I mean, this is a challenge that would just bankrupt you. Wow.
Well, so
could bankrupt you.
So having that hit the ground running before other parishes and stuff, we got those reports out. We started applying for funding, and we were awarded. So we split the east and the west side up separately, 2 separate contracts. And we were awarded $17 million for a little bit over 100 miles. So Ponchatoula Creek, Yellow Water, Natal Benny, Seltzer's Creek, some of these on the east side were all approved, but we have to 10% match. So our tax dollars are helping get the match and clean this up. On my side, on the west, the Natal Benny River has been finished. They're on Ponchatoula Creek. They will be finishing it. They will do Yellow Water, then Anderson. And simultaneously, we're also working on the second phase, which will be smaller tributaries and all that goes around these subdivisions and different things. So I just want everybody to know we've been working hard. Tangibo Parish, the Gravity Drainage District, was the first entity to get any funding through NRCS from Hurricane Ida.
That's impressive. So you had to have your ducks in a row, I's dotted, T's crossed. And that's a testament to you guys on the council at the commissioner level, but also to Kylie Bates and the 20 or so people working for him that are doing such a good job.
Well, one of your previous guests also, Mr. Lucas Watkins.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Lucas, with ELOS. Those guys are the contractor. Yeah, they do phenomenal work.
They did all of our permitting and all of it. They did the drones for us. So it was great. So we're making progress when there's still other parishes still don't have funding.
Well, I started my career at the State Attorney General's office in government affairs, and I was a counselor to parish governments all over the parish, from assessors, the parish presidents, et cetera. And what I can tell you is, I mean, it'll come as shock to nobody that Louisiana is pretty backwards, and there's some really poorly run parishes out there. So when to hear this kind of efficiency, fiscal responsibility, and effectiveness, it's really an outlier. So I commend you. I mean, you and your colleagues are doing it as well as anybody. And it's testament, the approval says it all, right? I mean, they're not writing those checks until every box has been checked and everything's been double checked. So thank you for doing such a great job. I've really enjoyed this interview. I feel like we could go another hour. I'm sorry we haven't been able to get to all your accomplishments. There's so much more to you and your story. Maybe we can get you back here eventually for a part 2. I think our viewers would love it. I do want to put a quote up here before we go. Our mutual friend, Kevin Rayford, he and Karen posted this probably 15, 20 minutes ago, but I've been sitting on it toward the end of the show because I think it's just a great capper for this. And he says, Kim, he's so proud of you and all that you've done and continue to do for our parish. And he's very proud to call you a great friend. And that's kind of exactly how I feel about you. So Kim, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time sharing this with us. It means a lot to me that you would take time out of your busy schedule to come on the show. Before we close, I'll give you the last word. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I just thank everyone. Have had a lot of support, a lot of thank yous. I still have some challenges, from things that is very hard to fix. but I try to communicate. I try to do the best I can, and I appreciate, I do when those calls also come in and thank me and stuff. Those are very appreciated and are good to my heart. So thank you, and I love Ponchatoula. I love Tangibo Parish. So I'm glad to be here.
Well said. Thank you for serving us well. And before we close, please give your mom a hug for me. Tell her that our buddies in the class of 91 still love her. So, folks, there you've had it. Councilwoman Kim Landry Coates. She's been a great guest, one of our best interviews yet. So thank you all for tuning in. We're going to say goodbye, and we will see you again same time, same place next week.